All right, we'll give it another minute or so and then I'll get started. How's everybody doing today? Good, good. No, not too bad, not too bad. How's business going? See any slowdowns?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too.
Although all of the ones that we're interested in, all of the ones that my buyers are interested in, they're still multiple.
Yeah.
If it's nice money. You're still gonna have to go all in.
Yeah. We just I saw one a couple weeks ago. It was 1.2 million. And I thought we would have to get like way over pool and like acre. Just went in and got it at 1.2.
How do you post it?
I
Now, see, okay, but here I am out here with people on Saturday. On 220.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, you're gonna have to go over. I hate that.
Yeah, that's under 3 is tough.
It really is. I can do 12. Sorry. Are you happy with all the renovations you did? Still?
We're doing the outside. I'm leave here.
But the inside you're happy with.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Good.
I'm very happy with it. It's just,
We could do that.
now we're doing the outside. So I think everything's like 2,000.
And it's a different club from Holly Springs.
Yeah, it's much different. It's been good for business.
I bet.
I've gotten a lot of business.
That's awesome.
I still have to make.
You always want to dominate, but there's some issues in there, so it's kind of tough to.
Maybe we can just share for a little while.
They grew up there.
For a little while. Give it a year.
That's right, that's right.
Goal.
All right, well, we will, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I am, if I can expand this a little bit. So I'm Chris Crumpler. I have a small team. So we're currently in the Wilmington, the Fayetteville, the Goldsboro areas, along with the Triangle. A little bit of background about myself. I started in I think I got my license in 2016. I worked part-time and dual career, if you will, for a couple of years. Just wanted to make that transition from going from, I was in big pharma over to real estate full-time. Didn't know when I could do it. I was kind of scared to leave, commission and, salary and that type of thing and make the jump. So I got started early on, like running this like a business. So I knew when I could make the jump. So for a couple of years, I did it part-time, and then I went full-time in 2019. So we sold around 130 to 150 last year. I think we closed around 48 or 50 million. So, but, being able to look at your business models, and when Edie asked me if I would come up, the way that I look at things is a little bit different just because I'm so focused on the numbers. It's one of those things that sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to kind of pull out because I make all my decisions and all my businesses. In 2019, I went and said, okay, I can expand if I, hire an admin or hire somebody to do transactions. But you kind of got to know where your base is and where you're starting so you know where you can go. So what I've done, if you guys can take a look at this, we're going to be looking at the Millionaire Real Estate Agent budget model. So that's what I base my business on. And these categories here are pretty important. You've got your salary, your lead gen. This is on page 193, just kind of as a reference. But a couple of things here. These are categories, and I fixated and said I'm going to have to get specific and go 9.2 on lead or 2 on occupancy or technology. You don't. You just have to keep that around 30%. So when you're looking at how you budget, your cost to sell is 30%, your expenses are 30%. So that's 60. That means you bring home 40, but don't forget to pay taxes. I got hammered this year with that. So, looking at it, I knew it was coming. I knew kind of where it was going, and I knew how to prepare for it because I have this budget model. I've talked to so many agents that don't pay their taxes or forget about this, or they're out of a system and they don't know when it's coming. I was bracing, I knew it was coming, and I knew about how much it was based on some of the software that I use. It didn't make me happy about it. I still had to pay it, but at the same time, I knew it was coming. So this is what I base my business on. And if you look at your total expenses here, that is 29.2. Now, a couple of things, and the way that I do it, we have some shrunken menus here. So I promise I'm not getting old. I can't see it, just shrinks it. So a couple of things here. This is how I based my business on the MRAA book. So page 193, if you look at it, you want to keep this 30%. That's your operating expenses. Okay. So what I do is I have auto insurance, travel, mileage. When I went to family reunion, that's plane tickets, that's expenses, that's travel, benefits, that's my medical insurance, all of that involved my wife as well. I have a category called communication technology, mobile phone, and internet. That's stuff like a hurdler subscription. What else do we use? We use a system called monday.com to communicate back and forth to the agents. Zoom is in there. So anything that I use for my business as an expense that's technology based goes in there. Education, coaching, MLS fees, and travel. The travel is an old thing on there, but it's basically my desk fees here that we're paying. I think I've got my wife and I, it's like 100 and something a month. We're part of the Flex system as well. So that's a separate membership. Triangle MLS, Realtor.com, all that stuff goes into that category. Gifts are gifts that we give away to charity organizations. We sponsor, I sponsored Broughton Lacrosse, for something, a friend of mine. They were having a lacrosse tournament. We'll do stuff at McGregor Downs where we'll actually sponsor tennis tournaments, or we'll get on the golf course packets or things like that. So that's what that is. And we just make it a gift to them. Lead generation, promotions, client gifts, business meals. These are when I have a client close, I give them some Crumpler Realty Group swag. I also give them a gift certificate to like a Lowe's or Home Depot. That's just what I do. Usually keep it between $25 or $30. So we have something with our name on it, stamped on it, and we also have that. Listing expenses, that's just what that is. That's your pictures, that's your measurements. That's pretty much about it on the listing expenses. It would be like, we use Easy Sign. So we'll give them our signs and they come and put them in. I think it's $50 a sign post. That's included in there. Salaries and wages. Now that's salaries, wages, budgets, like bonuses that we pay. We do things a little bit different. I've got two people that are on payroll with us, actually 4, including myself and my wife. And I'll explain that in a second. Supplies, office expenses, and other expenses. So we're supposed to be operating at around 30%. We operate at 14%. So some people look at that and go, you need to be spending more money. I look at that and go, I'm making more money. So, it's kind of a trade-off. They're not wrong and I'm not wrong. So it's just kind of where we're at. These numbers aren't accurate. I plugged them in. So I've protected, the people that it is. I plugged them in to be within a certain percentage. So the percentages are still the same, but these are not actually the raw numbers. So I left these the same. So this is my cost of sale. That also has to be 30%. Now, what is the cost of sale? That's your GCI that you pay to the company. I think mine's $15,000. And then you got the transaction fees. You pay a royalty fee and referral fees. So we're part of the Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider network. I don't know if you know who he is, but very smart. He gets 30% of every cut that we do. And he also gets like $350 to $400 a month for advertising fees. So that's part of that. That's what we have in there. We do a lot of stuff outside of the area. We're part of the KW Luxury Network as well, just based on our price point. That's anything from $1 million and above. We pay them some referral costs and some parts in that program as well. So that is supposed to be 30%. We're at 4%. And all that's based on the average income. So this is a spreadsheet that I created early on, and it's my business indicator. And it kind of tells me how I can run my business, and am I doing this well, or am I not? Or if I need to make cuts, what can I do? So it's kind of like a tale of two stories. In 2019, everything was great and we were looking to expand. In 2021, the market's shifting, right? So we're starting to see that shift a little bit. And I sat down, and I do have a business coach, and he said, "How's it going?" I said, "I don't feel good about this." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "It just feels off." He said, "Well, it's the first week of January. Why does it feel off?" I said, "It just does. You're working with buyers, you know kind of how they're reacting. I know interest rates are going up. I see them getting frustrated. I see some of them pulling out. It doesn't feel right. The chemistry on the team didn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. So how do we do that? How do we fix it?" Well, the numbers, right? The math's not going to lie. It takes the emotion out of it. So I looked at this and I said, yeah, last year was great. Now it's January. So, it's a new year. What are we going to do? So I looked at this and I looked at it every week, and I decided to make some changes on my team and contract, maybe get out of some markets, do some things. And I was able to cut costs this year about 25% going into next year. That's where we're at so far. So it's kind of a tale of two stories, right? Like in 2 seasons, you had a really good year, and you had a really, you're starting to see the negative effects of that. I've talked to so many agents that want you to think they're doing well, but they're not. And they're doing stuff like, I've had some that have somebody that comes and puts gas in their car. Come on. Like, that's an expense that you don't need. I've heard people that have people that will drive them around so they can do work in the back seat. Come on. So, I mean, it's great when the market's great, but when things change, you're going to get hammered on that. Right. So I'm always one step ahead. I don't always make the right decision. Nobody does, but I try to take one step at a time and look at it like what's coming. Because if you know what's coming, you're actually okay. And I'm not doing this to scare you. I'm just looking at the business to go, it's not as good as it was last year. It's not bad. We're still doing well. We've sold 62 homes this year since January. So it's not bad, but it's not 150 something that we sold last year. And I don't know if it's going to be 70. I don't know if it's going to be 100. I don't know if we're going to sell 200. But you got to plan, and you got to look at this, and you have to get this under control, because if you don't, you're going to go out of business. I have a feeling there's going to be a big purge of real estate agents when this market shifts. There needs to be honest. That's my opinion, but there just needs to be. But this actually tells me what I can do with my business and what I can't do. Okay. Any questions on this? Because this is kind of the whole reason I'm here, and I'll show you how I do this. But are there any questions about this that you guys have? No, everybody understood that? All right. Okay, so how do I get there, and what does that look like? So when you look at, we'll just go into last year. When we look at this, actually this feeds in, it feeds in what that spreadsheet was. Let me get it one more. So per month, this is the volume that we close, and the GCI, and these are our expenses. All these numbers every single month, I go through them. It's not as taxing as it looks. I just wanted to show you kind of how we do it. But when you look at it, this is what it looks like. These are people that were on my team. This is how much the team split and the percentages. These were the total referrals that we paid. Christine's on the team. These are bonuses. These numbers are made up, just because I don't want to tell everybody's salaries, but these numbers are made up. This is a GCI. I kept that the same. But anything, just understand that anything on there that's like a bonus or a salary or something like that, these are made up numbers. Okay. So you're not seeing in the history or Christine's what she makes. These are kind of skewed a little bit too, although it's public knowledge. I just don't like to air everybody's business on there. So I did change a few. So when you look at this, this is what the GCI team splits are. These are the actual closed numbers, and that all goes into, I told you we were about 48, 50 million last year. The GCI was about 739. When we actually figure in the team, we actually hit 1.1 million last year in GCI. So Tammy Register's team and ours did it. So when you look at this, this is kind of an additional 5 million from the percentages and what we have and based on our cuts. But all that goes into to that every month. And this is a system called Hurdler. And this is what manages that for us. So when you go and log into Hurdler, this basically takes care of our mileage. It estimates our taxes. It looks at our profit loss, our cash flow, our expenses, everything in there. Once a month, I go through this and I take a look at it and say, where are we at? What's going on? What do we need to do? What do we need to change? So it's got categories here. I looked at a couple of systems. I'm sitting here talking about numbers, but I can't remember how much this is a year. I know it's cheap. That's why I use it. $100. Okay, I was going to say $100. Yeah, I was spending $400 or $500 the first year on like all these different ones. And then I went to something with Brian and the team here over at Prestonwood, and it was about numbers. And I kept hearing Hurdler. So I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, everything's easy and it's cheap. So if something's cheap, I'm using it. So just as I've researched everything and this is the best one. But you kind of have to do that. You got to know where you're at. You got to look at alternatives because things change. It's no different than if you had cable and now you stream because it's cheaper. You got to do that with your business as well. But it kind of gives you, and I left the mileage up here as well, where it says review now. So on your phone, and I can't stream my phone up there, but this is kind of desktop version. So I drove this morning over here. So I'm going to take that mileage, and what it does, it just kind of runs in the background. You can see that I left home and I came here. So I'm going to say that it's business. And I'm not going to charge a listing to it. For every buyer and every client I have, I actually put them in there as either a buyer or a listing. And I charge this mileage to that client. Is it anal retentive? Yes. But you don't have to do that. I just do it because I want to know my profit and loss on each deal, right? If I'm driving to Fayetteville, and I'm putting up mileage like left and right, I want to see how that looks at the end, or I want to go into that listing appointment knowing I need to be doing a 5 or 6% to cover my cost as opposed to like a 4.5. If it's in my neighborhood and I can just walk to it, I'll do a 4.5, right? Or I'll cut them a deal and that'll kind of give me, ahead of the competition a little bit. But this was not charged to a listing, so I'll just put no listing. It kind of gives you your, it's sad, I can see my car going down in value. So 11,000 miles this year. It tells you what you do per month. And you can kind of see, we were super busy in January, February, March. Yeah, I know it's May, but market's changing a little bit, right? So you got less buyers. So this kind of in line with what we would expect to see. We had a lot of closings. We had a lot of business in February. We didn't do that much in March. April, you can kind of see it steadily going down. When you look at that, your expenses need to match that, because if your expenses are going down and your business is going down, or your expenses are going up and your business is going down, you're not going to be business long. So that's kind of a good way to look at that on the overview. When expenses come in, so you've actually got, I've got this hooked up to, I have a business credit card that I only use for business. It's Costco credit card. I get points for it. Again, I'm looking at what can I do the most? I got this computer for free because I needed to upgrade last year and I just used my points for that. So whatever you want to do, I'm a Dave Ramsey no debt guy. I don't love credit cards, but also, have gotten a couple swiped, just because you're doing business and that type of thing. It just makes me feel a little bit better about it. I never carry a balance. I pay it off every single month, and I can pay it off because I'm looking at what's coming in and what's going out. So I would look at it for, if you do mileage, you don't want an annual fee, save that. It should be low interest rates. Actually, the interest rate shouldn't even matter, to be honest with you. You're paying off every month. So look at the perks and what you do. The Costco one seems the best to me. So that's what I used. And that's what I've got in here. I've also got my business banking account hooked up to this. I don't mix anything personal and anything business together. I don't. Because if you're ever in a situation, and I've talked to Josh about this, where you get someone wanting to sue you and it's a litigious type state, then they can go after your personal stuff. So my business is an LLC and it's an S corp in an LLC. So I don't know enough about that to speak intelligently about it. I know enough to get myself in trouble, but you have to create an LLC first. And then after you do that, you have to create an S corp. The S corp makes sense for you if you make a certain amount of money a year, but you have to have an LLC. So if you have an LLC put in place, I would have that anyway. But if you have an LLC put in place, you can always retroactively go back and do an S corp from the beginning of the year, which is what we did this past year. I talked to my accountant, hey, this is where I think the income is going to be. This is where my expenses is what I think my net profit is going to be. So around October, she goes, you need to be an S corp. I can tell that it's going to save you money. It saved me almost $40,000 if I switch it to an S corp. So if you don't have an accountant, get an accountant. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't. So you got to run this like a business. That's number one. If you don't hear anything else I say today, run this like a business. If you don't, you will put yourself out of business. And then you have to go back into the corporate world, which nobody wants to do. So, but everything is hooked up directly to this. When it comes in, I literally swipe it just like this. I can say business or not. This is, I've got expenses. I've got income coming in. You can kind of see where we're at. I'm trying to think what year this is. And Chris, you can set up some of them that if it's like a recurring thing, it automatically tags. It does, yeah. You can set it up to where it automatically tags. I'll go through that. You're exactly right in a few minutes. Going back, I told you that I had listings and buyers in there. So this is, let me make sure we're looking at. If I can switch years, but so this is what we currently have. This is actually this year, but these are the ones I put them in there with their last name. These are the listings that we have coming up. When it says active, that means that I've signed them to an agency agreement. Pending means it's under contract. So it kind of gives you what your commission pipeline is. When these close, just from the listings, you're looking at about 285,000 from these listings. You can also go back and you can look at buyers in your pipeline and say, okay, hopefully it'll switch. In the buyer side, I've got all these pending and a few actives. A lot of these are kind of going away with like this one right here. This is tough. It's under 250. We were just talking about that. They waited too long, to be honest. They were a little too picky. You have that conversations, you can do that all day long, but at the end of the day, it's their decision, it's their money. But we could have gotten into something last year. I would love to turn this to pending, but this just probably is past right now. So, when you're talking to your clients and you're out, especially with buyers, you need to tell them and you need to jump on this, even though if it means covering the difference on the appraisal, know your numbers. And so you can speak intelligently to them, because had we were $4,000 away from getting an offer and they didn't want to go up. Now it's probably going to cost them $60,000 or $70,000 to make up for that at a higher interest rate over 30 years, which is probably another $150,000. I would have rather spent $4,000 than $150 any day. So, and you have to be able to talk to your clients and tell them, because a lot of them are first-time home buyers. They don't know, right? So you have to educate them. And one of the things that I did early on, and I've said this over and over again, I base my business on numbers. And I can go in and talk to someone, whether it's a listing or a buy, and tell them and make them feel comfortable enough to want to sign with us, because other agents don't do it. I don't want to tell you my secrets, but that's my secret. You go in there and you talk numbers, and they will trust you, and they will know that you got their best interest at heart. I've told them many times, well, what about the marketing? Who cares? I mean, I can sell this and I can tell you whether to take a VA or a USDA or this and that. The house is going to sell because there's no houses. So what is it? Why are you concerned about marketing? That's a good point. Do you want to, net more money, or do you want to worry about if I'm going to put this on Facebook, which I'm not going to sell it on Facebook, or I'm going to put it on LinkedIn, or if it's going to be on MLS? So there's different ways that you can reach a target audience, and that's, the numbers. I know the loans. I know what the appraisal is going to come back at. I run my comps when I'm in the field. So I use HomeSpotter. When I'm in there, I pull them up. I show them, this is what it closed for. If you go down to the bottom, it'll say this was listed at 270, closed at 325. So I am not trying to bid this up. This is accurate data right here. So I do it that way based on GPS. So we're able to kind of connect with those buyers and tell them, this is what this is what it's going to take. I can't see the due diligence money and I can't see that, but that's just part of knowing it. But I put all of my clients and my buyers in here. I don't know that this is completely updated, but because we've signed several listings in the past few days. But it kind of gives me a feel for what we got coming in, what that looks like. And that is important because it kind of gives you a feel for when you go to look at, you can look at year over year type things as well. We'll go last year. So when you're looking at this, you see that what's based on what has closed last year based on my expenses, that was the income. So where here the expenses are here, then you've got your net and you're paying your taxes based on the information that you put in this system. It's just a standard 30% deduction. You can say how many you got. It'll say that you live in the state of North Carolina, and you can just kind of go through that together. And when you're setting it up with your accountant. So any questions about this? Okay. So the thing that I like about this, so every month, I guess, kind of start from scratch. I meet with, I'll use JC. JC is going to be a client of mine. I meet with him. He goes, yep, we want you to sell our house. Okay, great. So we go over some dates and we put him in here. We get him signed to an agreement. Now JC's house at 123 Main Street is going to be in here as a property that we're going to be listing. I only put it in here when it's signed. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I meet with Edie. Edie goes, yep, I like you. I want to work with you. You're going to be my buyer's agent. We sign Edie, we put her in here. So all of that actually goes into this system. And then we charge our expenses to that. When I go take pictures of JC's house, I'm going to charge pictures in there to that. So I can literally break it down and look at what I'm netting from each property. We've all had those sellers that want you to do it for 1%. Can I not? What's this look like? Am I going to have to pay a buyer's agent? There's a number of things in there. You got to know your numbers, because when you're in there talking to someone, it's not about 5% or 6%. If I'm selling $1 million home or a $1.5 million home at 4%, or I, don't get the listing at 5%, I'll take 4% at $1.5 million all day long. I've done that. And I did it because it was on a main road, and I sold 2 more homes and it was like $3 million worth of stuff because I took a 4% commission cut. So you have to think about that. It's always not about the numbers. It's, can I get this deal or not? I know what I'm up against in carrying Apex, and I know the numbers, and I know what the agents are doing, and I know that they're cutting expenses, and I have to go in there and I have to compete with that, because the average buyer or the average seller, buyers don't care. The average seller, what do they want? They want the cheapest commission possible. Well, I was cheap on one of my listings, and one of the other agents called me and said, I see you're only paying this on the buy side. Yeah, I am, because I did this on the listing agreement. So I went back to them and I said, remember, I told you that we were going to have some problems with this because we were getting cheaper. Yep. Now we're having them. Can they do that legally? No. Do they? Yes. They look at that. I know Ryan Holmes pays 1.75% commission. We know that. We're trying to run a business. They are too. It's nothing against Ryan Holmes. I don't have a problem with that. But you got to look at this and say, what are you doing? Right. And if you have that in your buyer's agency agreement and you got it to where they need to make up the difference, if you're already asking your buyer to make up $30,000, $40,000 appraisal gap, and then now they're having to pay you, the $10,000 that Lennar or Ryan Holmes didn't pay you, that's just what you got in your agreement. You need to have that conversation with them up front, and it's complicated and it's uncomfortable at times, but you got to have that, because you can't just throw this on them. I had one in Durham, and typically commissions in Durham are 3%. I paid 2.5%, I think. Well, one of the deals fell through because they owed them another 0.5%. She's like, well, would your sellers come off of that? No, that's not my problem. That's the agreement you signed. I've got 15 other offers on this house. Y'all work that out. So they did and came back. They couldn't make it work because of the agreement that they signed. So they missed out on that house. Had a really good offer, but they missed out on the house because they signed an agreement. That has nothing to do with me. I don't care what their buyer's agency agreement is. I'm working for my sellers. So knowing numbers, knowing where you're at, knowing where you stand is very, very important, because you need to have those conversations. I walked into several listings this week and I discounted the commission because I knew that I would need to, but I knew that I could based on my numbers here. Because think about it. Last year we were getting what, like 2.4%, 2.5. Well, everybody looks and says, well, we're only getting 2.2. Yeah, but you're making $100,000 more on the house than what you made last year. You're actually netting more if you think about it that way. It's not all about the numbers. That's why I never look at commissions, to where it makes a decision for me. Because the homes are $1,000 or $100,000 more. That's going to be a downward pressure on commission. That makes the most sense. But one of the things that you can do, you can run mileage reports. You can do it based on client. Let me show you last year's. Okay, so right here, this was a client of mine last year. I put them in there by their name. So I know you can see the ones that I really showed a lot of homes to. My God, it's giving me PTSD. But you can kind of see, we looked at every house in Wake County. But you can kind of see that, where that stands up. This was another one, 2 years, right? But some of them are like, 10 miles here, 10 miles there. But I'm able to pull this data and look at it and know if this client calls me back and goes, I'm ready to buy another house, I'm gonna go, all right, I remember last time, right? So, but you can kind of see that this is how I charge my stuff. But that is last year's market where you're showing 10 or 15 homes. Now, not that much. I can show you this year's and last year. You can kind of see it, spot those trends and look for it. Some of the other reports that you can do on my mouse that you can do on here, you can do an expense report. I do it by category. I'm gonna go with last year, so it's a little bit easier to see. So last year I showed you this spreadsheet, kind of going back to, let me find it, this one. So every month on the 20th of the month, I have a reminder set in my calendar for me to go in and balance and look at my profit loss for the month. Why do I do that? Because 3 years ago, when I didn't know what I was doing, I waited until the very end of December and I spent 10 hours one Sunday doing it. And I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I'm not doing this again. So every month after the 20th, and I wait till after the 20th because that's when the credit card statement comes in. I can balance everything. Everything's cleared. All the payroll's done. So I wait till the 20th. So May 20th, I will do April statements. And what I do is I run this report. And it tells me, okay, I can kind of come in here and I can do a custom range. I'm just going to do it. You can put, dates. So I'll put January. Let's just do January 1st through the 31st. So that's the month of January, right, of last year. So what I do is I say, okay, this month it's a good month. I spent $85 on auto insurance, travel mileage. On that month, last January, I spent $400 or $500 on benefits, $381 on that, on my categories. So when they come in, I just tag them. You just right swipe or left swipe, and you tag them. And it takes maybe 30 minutes to set this up. That's it. It's not much. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But I wanted to show you kind of what the overall picture looks like, and then I can go back and show you how to set it up. But I take this information, I run this report. It also lets me look at this and compare it with my credit card statement and my bank statement and say, oh, did I miss this? Did I not? Because this is technology, right? It's not 100%. So there's going to be things on here that break. There's going to be things on here that don't work. So, I need to balance those budgets every month. So for the month of January last year, I spent $5,800. And then what I did is I went in and I put that information in and I updated it in real time. So this is kind of a running tab. This is the end of the year with some numbers changing around, but I just update that each month. That's it. And it tells me when I look at this, here's my budget. And again, this is on page 193. This needs to equal 30%. So I think the salaries in there are like 7, 8, 9%. Truth be told, don't be cheap on that. You're not going to get someone that's good or someone that's going to stick around. It's going to cost you more later if you don't pay them like they need to be. Would you want to take a job where you don't make any money? No, So they don't either, right? So don't be cheap with that. So I don't go up 9%, I actually go up 15, 20, depending on the year, depending on what's going on. This base salary is not kind of where they're at. Again, these numbers are made up, let me stress that. So looking at the budget, you can see that my categories here are, this is kind of what I budgeted in that equals 30%. This formula is something that I put in where I basically just take what my expenses are divided by my income, and it gives me where I'm at. I used Excel a lot in a previous life, so that's why you see that. So I can just enter this information in here. And when I do, it tells me, am I good or not? So looking at this, let's just say that this is accurate and I have to make a decision. Can I hire someone else? Again, numbers are fake, but if I need to make a decision, could I hire someone else? Yeah, because I'm at 7.6% of my budget. So I can hire someone else. That's a decision I can make. What if I need to go buy a ton of office supplies and computers for everybody? Can I do it? Sort of. I need to see what that looks like, right? That's a decision I need to make. Well, can I increase my my lead generation, or because I need to spend money to make money? Can I increase my lead generation or things that I can do? Yeah, I do. I got a 4% gap in there that I can do, and we did, and we made that decision based on what we had last year. So this is there for you to make decisions, and that's what you have to do. The decision that we made this year, we're pulling this back a little bit. The decision that we made a couple of years ago, we expanded it. So I don't know what the market's going to do. I have a good feeling about it. I think interest rates are going to scare a few people away. And I think that, you're going to have more buyers fall out of the market. Is that a bad thing? No, because real estate agents are going to fall out of the market. So it'll level itself out. It's a sad result, but that's what's going to happen. But it all comes back to this MREA business model and how we have this set up in the categories. So it's not hard. I don't really make things difficult. I don't believe in that. This is not some elaborate spreadsheet that we do. It's wordy the way that it looks, but it's also have 12 months of data in there. But really, this takes maybe 30 minutes or an hour a month to do. That's it. And when I'm doing my mileage, I swipe it in real time. I take care of it during the day. I'm the OCD person that doesn't like those little bubbles that comes up, says do this. So I'm like, oh, I got to get it done. I just keep track of it in real time. That's it. Got a little bit more complicated. My wife's on my team, so now it's like double the work, because she's showing homes and I'm doing this and she's taking care of that. She's got a credit card. And as your team grows and as you have more people on your payroll, that's just what's going to happen. So that 30 minutes, 15 minutes is now probably close to an hour just because you got another person on the team. We also had another admin that we hired on the team as well. So there's some associated costs with that, but can I make that decision? Should I not? If I have to make cuts, where can I do it? All this just really comes back to this. This is the fundamental basis of my business right here. If you set it up at the beginning, if you don't, one of the things that I joke about with Christine is, we were setting this up and she's been working with us, I guess, going on 3 years, but I didn't know what I was doing, and thank God she didn't, hammer me with it. But we just kind of gotten this together, and me coming from the pharma business world, I was like, what's your capacity? What's your capacity? What's your capacity? I don't know. She wasn't wrong. She didn't know, right? Because we're going through this the first time. But it kind of got me thinking she doesn't know because we haven't gone through this now. She knows now, right? Because last year we were over capacity, and that's my fault. That's on me because we should have, made that decision to jump a little bit quicker. But when do you? I mean, you're a business owner. You got to make a lot of decisions. Do I hire them? Am I going to hire someone in April? No, it's right in the middle of the spring season, right? You hire them at the end of the year, you get them trained and you get them going. But if you hire them at the end of the year and your business is down, you got to float that salary and that payroll, right? So can I do it? Well, I can, because I know that I've got this. So it really kind of just comes down to this model and this model alone. Going back to Hurdler, when you see these categories in here, there's a settings section right here that you can actually go in. This is where you put the little toolbar there. This is where you put all of your information in. I'm going to put I'm going to link all my bank accounts to it that are business related. This is where JC was talking about expense rules. So if they see every single month that Keller Williams Platinum is taking out 53 or whatever a month, it'll automatically tag it for you. Is this good? Yes, it's easy. The business categories, I set them up So when you click on that, I just put them under other, and you can actually come in here and at the very top, you can hit add and you add your business category. That's it. So my salaries, my auto mileage, all the stuff that I did based on this in the MREA, I set it up in this program and it's now set up and I can just swipe right or left when they come in. So it takes maybe 30 seconds a day to update everything, make sure you're good, keep it going. But I don't have to worry about this stuff. I set aside, like I said, once a month, I'll after the 20th, it's usually that 4th week of the month. I'll set it up. And if I've got a listing appointment or if a client wants to go see a house, I move that, but I'll make sure that I do it. Because if you don't, you're going to be looking at receipts going, well, I did this 3 months ago. I can't remember. I can usually remember a month. I'm getting old, but I can usually remember the month, like, hey, this is what I did this month. Oh yeah, I remember this receipt, or, it's fresh in my mind. But it's not hard, guys. This is pretty much it. I don't make it complicated. This is my business. I try to make it as easy as possible. I based it on the MREA. I use this software. Like I said, every month I put it back into this system here, and just kind of gives me a feel for how am I doing. And I look at this probably weekly and say, okay, what does this look like? Where am I at? What decisions do I need to make? It also allows me to look at, we're in the Wilmington market. One thing about Wilmington is it's really good in the fall. And then in the spring, everybody's at the beach. So not everybody's selling because they're taking their rental incomes, right? So Wilmington market is the exact opposite of Raleigh market. So here it starts slowing down in August, not there, it starts ramping up. So August over the holiday months, and December, everybody that bought a beach house and was tired of replacing the air conditioner every 3 years because of salt water, or you get hammered with a storm, they're looking to sell. So it's kind of like it overlaps with our business. Does it make sense for us to be in Wilmington right now with the market contracting? I don't know. I don't know that it does. I'm still kind of going through that. Long-term, probably not. I can look at this and go, I can outsource it and I can get a referral agent. She can directly work with me. We've got some, set up to where that actually makes sense. I went with one that is licensed in North and South Carolina because my business model changed. 2 years ago, nobody cared about South Carolina. Now the tax laws are a little bit more favorable for people that are retiring. So South Carolina is a more attractive option. So I could stay in Wilmington, but I sure am getting a lot of questions about South Carolina. So what can I do to do this, a little bit different? They can go to Little River, they can go to Calabash, and some parts are in North and South Carolina. You have to change with your business. 2 years ago, that wasn't an issue. Now it is. So does it make sense for me to be in Wilmington? I don't know. I'm still making that decision, because right now on paper, it doesn't look like it does. Does it make sense to be in Goldsboro? I don't know. I'm also looking at that. We can sell $1 million homes in Raleigh, or we can sell $1 million home in Raleigh, or we can sell 10 $100,000 homes in Goldsboro. It's 10 times the work, 10 times the expenses, 10 times the cost, 10 times the, stressing out our admin. Does it make sense? The business is great in Goldsboro, but does it make sense? It's one house here at $1 million versus 10, 100,000 there. And those are decisions that you have to make, and everybody's, decision is going to be a little bit different. But that is all I've got. I don't think I've ever finished up early, but that's all I've got. So again, when Edie wanted me to kind of chat with you guys and go through it, it wasn't something that was overly complicated. I don't try to make it that way. This is how you want to make it and how it works for your business. But at the end of the day, just make things easy on yourself. You got to keep track of it though. And I felt like Hurdler and this spreadsheet that I created was the best that did that for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So what questions do you guys have for me?
I have a question, Chris. I'm looking at the screen. What is that Blue Cross Blue Shield? That's medical, right?
Yeah, medical. Yep. I do Blue Cross Blue Shield. Just works for us and our plan. I think we have a dental plan. So this is last year. I think we have a dental plan, and I did a little bit of that with my wife's salary last year and the job that she was at. So
okay.
Yeah,
So that's for your staff. Okay.
Yeah, that's for mine. So you got to have to weigh that. She worked for the state. She worked at NC State, and it was something ridiculous like, I think $50 to insure her. But if I went on the plan, it became $750 a month. So I looked at this and said, well, I only had to pay $530 some a month with Blue Cross. I'm gonna go with Blue Cross. So, it's not always the case, but just in that situation, when we were looking at it, it was a little bit cheaper to go, with that option.
Okay, I didn't know you can include medical. That's all.
Yeah. Well, you do, because medical is part of a deduction. If you work for a corporation, then, that's going to be coming out of your check, out of your net check every month.
Right.
So your gross salary on your W-2 is going to reflect that, but then your net is going to reflect the medical. So yeah, you can absolutely deduct medical, any type of medical. Well, not like surgeries and things like that up to a certain percentage, but your medical insurance cost per month, yeah, you can.
Good to know. Thanks.
So when you have this set up, all of your gas and everything that you're buying as you're running around with your buyers is coming off of the business account through that credit card.
I don't take gas. I take the depreciation
Okay.
because gas is so expensive that the depreciation is higher than what I could take for gas.
Okay.
Yep. And I also, some of the stuff that's not on here for deductions, Jen and I both have offices in our house, so we can take the square footage of our house, deduct what our offices are, deduct that, like, any HOA fees that you pay per month, like, in the neighborhood, or your electricity for that square footage, you can take a certain percentage off of that. That's not included in here because it's just a deduction, because it's not an expense for me, but things like that are not included in here. These are just like my cost of sale. What does it cost me to do business? I have to pay a cab. I have to pay, expenses, salaries and MLS fees and stuff like that. So the things that I'm paying directly come out of that. Deductions and stuff like that, I don't put it in here. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was huge. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, Chris,
Yep.
for your car deductions, do you have a car specifically for real estate and then one for personal use, or do you?
No. I use it, so in Hurdler, when it's running in the background, and make sure that's always open on your app, you have the option to say personal or business. So you can swipe, I think left it's personal and right it's business. So if I'm going to take a vacation and I'm going to drive that car, down to the coast or something, and it's not business related, I'll say it's personal. We're going to grocery store or something like that, because it's constantly doing it. That's not the right thing to do, right? So I'm not gonna charge expenses for me going to the grocery store or me going to the coast. I'm not gonna do that. If I'm going to the coast for a meeting or to meet with a client or something like that, then I would. But I separate it. I have one car, but I separate it out as business and personal.
Okay, so then you take I think you said you do the depreciation of the vehicle then, correct?
I do. I let my accountant do that because
Okay.
I don't know how they do that, to be perfectly honest with you. One thing that I can't stand is dealing with is taxes. That's why I pay someone to do it. I feel like I'm going to miss things when I'm doing it. It stresses me out. So I hire someone to do it. I hired someone that runs a business and that focuses on small businesses, because there are deductions and there are things out there that I don't think about. I knew what an S corp was. I knew what an LLC was. I didn't know the tax advantages. I knew that there were tax advantages sorta for each one, but I didn't know what they were and does it make sense. So they can run things in a tax program. They can run estimates and tell me. And when we looked at this, it was, you're going to come out better on depreciation on the car and mileage than you would if you did expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. What were you saying, Edie?
I was gonna say, Hurdler was originally set up to go ahead and just track mileage. So if you do nothing else,
Yep.
you can go ahead and get the version of Hurdler where you just track your mileage, personal and business, so that you can at least use that on your taxes if you don't go ahead and go all in on the Hurdler system to do it this way.
Yep. Yeah, but I wish there was more to it. There's just not. I try to make it as easy as possible. It's all about efficiency. So when you're making business decisions, I look at every decision, and Christine can tell you this. Hey, Chris, I think that this system is going to be good. Okay, what's our return on investment? What do you mean? How are we going to make more money if we do this? And she's, to her credit, she's really good. She'll come in now going, hey, if we get this program, I think I can do X amount more transactions, or I think I can do these deals, or this is how it's going to save us money. You have to think like that. You can't be careless. Everything's going up, inflation, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. And if you're ahead of the curve, we know inflation's going up. We know gas is going up. We know the market's shifting. We know all those things. Make the change now. Sometimes it's painful. I've had to make changes that I didn't want to make, but I'm also in charge of running a business, and I'll have to make more that I don't want to make. But at the end of the day, I have, I've given Christine my word. And when you have someone on payroll, you look at things and change things. You do, because I'm responsible for that, and I take that very serious. And I can't
Who's
give.
that, Obi?
What's that?
Sorry. Sorry about that. You mentioned the depreciation versus expenses. That's similar to the mileage. I'm sorry, standard versus actual.
Yeah, I don't know that I completely understand what you're asking, but I take the depreciation on the car from it basically just, I think it's mileage, and then there's a depreciation factor in there. There's also one, and I'm scared to bring it up.
What I know is about using either the standard mileage or the actual.
I use a standard.
Okay, so
yeah.
this is separately, I mean, specifically for car depreciation that is added to that, right?
It
depends on their tax.
Yeah.
Their CPA would be a better.
Yeah, Zach was saying, I agree. Your CPA is probably the better one to talk to on that.
Right.
It's based on your specific situation and kind of what your business looks like and how you do things. I put a lot of miles on my car, and it makes more sense for me to do it that way than it, but yours might be completely different. So I would check with your accountant on that. I don't want to tell you something
Yeah.
wrong. I
Yep.
just pull the mileage together and I submit it, and they work their magic and do whatever. So I still have to pay a lot of taxes. I know that, but it's not completely magical.
Do you pay
Okay,
quarterly?
thanks.
I do pay quarterly. I pay quarterly, and this is the other thing that I do. I looked at last year, and when you pay quarterly, it's based on what you did last year, right? It's estimated, right? So when I told you I didn't have a good feeling in January, I just didn't. I mean, interest rates are going up. It's there to curb inflation. What do you do? And it's there to fix the supply chain. Well, if interest rates go up, and I know on a $400,000 house, you're looking at probably $400 more a month. And now you got gas, you're going to have buyers that pull out. You're going to have clients that go, it's very hard for me to walk into a house and go, hey, I know you're like 2.5%, but do you want to pay $300,000 more for this house and pay 5.5%? That's a good deal, right? No, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. But you have to target, like, where are they going? Are they going to Florida where they don't have to pay sales tax? Yes. Are they going to another state? Did they get transferred with their job where they can eat some of these costs? Yeah, that's who we're targeting. That's who we're focusing on now, to get these listings. Dave Ramsey's coming back hard because they were, long story short, there was a time where I was kind of thinking about getting rid of the Dave Ramsey program, because I'm looking at this and I'm going, God, I spent a lot of money on this, right? And you got to go to meetings, and you have to do all these things. It's a lot of work involved. And they were nowhere to be found when the market was going crazy and everybody's paying all these numbers. Well, the market shifted, and they've come out under their rocks. Like, they are coming out like crazy. I've signed 3 Dave Ramsey listings in the last couple of weeks. Why? Because they don't have any debt. They don't care about interest rates. They're looking for the market to come back down and settle so they can sell, cash out, and pay cash for a home. It doesn't affect people like that. It's also your clientele. I deal with a lot of people that pay cash. I work with a lot of investors. I work with some in Boston, some in the Connecticut area, and we're looking to buy them homes here. Well, it's easy. I got $450. Here's my proof of funds. Go find us a townhome. Okay. So we can pay cash for it. We can close in 2 weeks. That's what I'm focusing on in my business, because those people are the ones that are going to survive. Fortunately, the people that are at 250, the people that are getting, hurt by all these rental companies coming in here and buying it, those are the clients that unfortunately are going to probably, fall out of this market. And you got to make a decision. You got to be honest with them and say, look, it would have made sense last year and I want to sell you home because that's how we make money, but I don't think this is good for you. Now you're paying $1,000 more a month. You're paying for this house. You're having to pay so far over this and you don't have the cash to cover the appraisal. I don't think this is a good situation for you. And it's painful because it's taking money out of our pockets and our business, but is it the right thing? Yeah. And a lot of them have come back and said, you know what? We appreciate that. And that's hard for you to do. We're going to have to bow out for a little bit. They'll be back. They'll be back. I mean, it'll stabilize, but doing what's right for the client is always the number one thing. Because if you do that, every time my business has gone down and I haven't had the number of things that I was having coming in, stress about it for a little bit, and then I just forget it because I do the right thing with clients and they appreciate that and they send me more clients. So it always, Jen always makes this comment, we're even Steven. I lost an $800,000 listing the other day. Hated it, lost it. It wasn't working for them. We had it on the market. It wasn't working. We went our separate ways. No big deal, but it was the best thing for them. I hated it. So I had money involved in it. But at the same time, the next day I got one for 810. Even Steven, right? But I did what was right. And this one just came out of the blue. I didn't do anything. It just kind of showed up. And you got to do that. You got to have difficult conversations with clients sometimes, especially around commission and fees and what's right for them. But if you do it and you do that right thing every day, then you'll get paid back. Karma will come back. And when you don't, it'll bite you. It's bitten me too. So you gotta be even keel with this, but know where you're going and know kind of how your business is set up. Sure. Hopefully it was helpful. Any other questions online? Okay, well, if you do, you guys know where to find me and I'll be here. So if you got any questions, just let me know. All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No problem.